Hey, soldiers, crypto is dead. It just doesn't know it yet. This is according to the Bank of International Settlements. Now, who are they? Well, we've talked about them from time to time on the channel. The Bank of International Settlements is the central bank of central banks. Now, I want you to kind of walk with me here to get an idea of how powerful and pervasive this organization is and how important they are to these world governments. Now, you know we've got the war with Russia and Ukraine. The European Union, the NATO countries, the United States of America have all lined up in opposition of Russia on this. You got China doing, to some extent, allying and standing behind Russia. You got the BRICS nations out there who are saying, hey, we're still going to deal with Russia and China on economic issues in the meantime. So you got a lot of, countries at loggerheads over this issue, right? But guess what all of those countries agree on? They agree on their membership in the Bank of International Settlements, okay? So you've got as members the Central Bank of the Russian Federation, the Federal Reserve System here in the United States, the People's Bank of China, the Bank of England, on and on and on, okay? All of the major countries are signatories to the Bank of International Settlements. And it is the Bank of International Settlements that has sat on high and said, you know what, we're going to declare war on crypto. And now they're saying that they've won that war. We'll get into that in just a second. Listen, I want you to subscribe and become a soldier of finance if you haven't already. We are actively involved in looking at this new economy, this evolving economy, and figuring out how we win at this. All right. That's our mission here. How we become financially independent and how we maintain that. They say getting something is the easy part. Keeping it, that's a challenge. Well, we do both here. We're examining these global issues so you can get a better understanding of what is going on in this world in relation to your money. Now, subscribe. And here's the other thing I want you to do in the comment section. Go ahead and put what state and country you are from. Now, we call it state here in the United States, of course. You might call it province or something else, but tell me where you're from. And if you can, put the emoji of your country's flag there in the response to, okay? All right, so let's get into this. Now, as I said, the Bank of International Settlements is saying that they have won the battle against cryptocurrencies. Fiat money, the fiat money that all of these central banks control has won the battle. Now, why would they want to win this battle? We'll get into that in a minute. Agustin Carstens, who is the head of the Bank of International Settlements, believes the battle between cryptocurrency and fiat currencies has come to an end, with the latter emerging as the winner. Fiat currency refers to money that has legal tender by government decree, all right? As opposed to crypto, people put faith in it and said it has value, but not by government decree. Carstens says, and I quote, and now we're dealing with a guy who is extremely intelligent, okay? So when I look at what he said, I take every word literally. The battle has been won. A technology doesn't make for trusted money. This is a quote from Carstens in an interview he gave to Bloomberg. Now, there's a word in there that he uses that I want to fixate on for a minute. He says, the battle. All right. So he doesn't characterize what has been going on between crypto and fiat currency as a full-blown war. He's just viewing it as, hey, this is the latest in some kind of, challenge to the status quo. And as far as he's concerned, it's been vanquished. He goes on, only the legal historical infrastructure behind central banks can give great credibility to money. Now, what he's alluding to is the fact that these governments have issued money. And look, let's just be fair about it. If you and I want to trade goods or services, we could come up with some type of barter, okay? You could say, all right, Tyrone, you've grown these butternut squash. I would like to acquire some of those, and in exchange for them, I will provide you with mechanical services. That's great if I need mechanical services. And you might say, well, you might not need them now, but what about in the future? Well, yeah, that's a possibility. However, if something happens to you, and I've already given you the butternut squash, then how am I supposed to redeem my mechanical services if something happens to you or if you leave the area? All right. So this is where an agreed upon, unit of exchange comes into play. In this country, United States of America, it's been the dollar. In other countries, it's, China, the yuan, England, the pound. Okay. So to that extent, governments provide a great government fiat currency, just the plain Jane vanilla, intent of it. That's providing a great service. Where we come into a lot of conflict and speculation is in the case of the United States, for example, where we're spending trillions of dollars. We're at 31 trillion. We did the report on how we will be at 50 trillion by 2032. Okay. So that makes that money lose value constantly. It's not meant to save. It's not going to provide value over time. It's not going to appreciate over time. And what we do here as soldiers of finance is, of course, we want to acquire assets that appreciate and or provide income over time. Carstens' statements come after cryptocurrencies crashed over the past year, with Bitcoin, the most valuable cryptocurrency in the world, down by around 38%, after hitting a 2022 peak of around $47,450 in March. Bitcoin was trading at $23,700 as of February 22nd, up around 60% from its November 2022 cycle lows. Now, there is something that Carstens is not saying. He's not mentioning a form of value, a unit of exchange that is doing better than fiat currency. Okay, and we'll get into that. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about, but we'll get into that in a minute. The crash in cryptocurrencies is pegged on multiple factors. For one, rising interest rates made holding cash much more attractive than investing in risky and volatile assets like cryptocurrencies. Okay, that's over the short term. The crash of Luna coin in May added to the decline. At one point, Luna was ranked as the 7th biggest cryptocurrency in the world. But following an unsustainable business model and other issues, Luna declined by 96% in a single day in May of 2022. So that is enough to shake your faith, right? You basically lost, if we round it off, 100% in a day. Confidence in the crypto market fell further in November when FTX, one of the largest crypto exchanges at the time, filed for bankruptcy after concerns about the company's balance sheet and subsequent withdrawals triggered a liquidity crisis. And we've done an extensive amount of reporting on the Sam Bankman-Fried scandal and the whole FTX thing, all of his alleged charges and whatnot, and we will continue to do so. Now, Carstens has come out and published a report with 3 flaws that prevent cryptos from acting as a sound basis for a monetary system. First, he says cryptos lack what he's calling a sound nominal anchor. Cryptocurrencies themselves are highly volatile, which is true. Meanwhile, stable coins, a type of crypto where its value is pegged to an asset like the US dollar, quote, borrow credibility from real money issued by banks, unquote. Hey, listen, you cannot argue with that, okay? I'm not the biggest fan of the way the central banks operate. Not at all, okay? If you haven't read The Creature from Jekyll Island, pick it up. But you cannot argue. Why is there a stable coin pegged to the dollar if you're trying to make the argument that, the dollar is somehow not credible? Second, fiat money is anchored in a trusted institution like a central bank that guarantees the stability of currency as well as the final settlement of transactions and their safety. Now, I will say that sure, the dollar, our fiat currency here in America does pretty much guarantee final settlement of transactions. That's about the only thing he said that I, agree with in that statement. I would not say that the central banks are trusted institutions. He's in the bubble. So, he's the head honcho at the Bank of International Settlements. It's a very, very powerful position. So sure, he's surrounded by yes men and yes women who tell him, yes, of course, the central banks, they're the most trusted organizations in the society as a whole. This is what he hears. So this is what he runs with. He doesn't offer any empirical evidence to support that claim. And I would argue that he cannot. When he says they're anchored in a trusted organization and that final settlement of transactions is guaranteed and the safety of that unit of exchange over the long term, I don't think he can guarantee that. Crypto does not have centralized government level guarantees. Absolutely true. Third, the decentralized nature of cryptocurrencies means that it relies on incentives to anonymous validators to confirm transactions in the form of rents and fees. This prevents scalability and results in congestion. For example, when Ethereum network, which is a blockchain widely used for DeFi application, nears its transaction limit, fees rise exponentially. As a result, over the past 2 years, users have moved to other blockchains, resulting in growing fragmentation of the DeFi landscape. And of course, they're using the word DeFi for decentralized finance. Now we're going to get into the territory where I promise you the United States and other countries are looking at, and they are never going to allow this eventuality to occur. In October of last year, the U.S. Financial Stability Oversight Council issued a warning that digital assets like cryptocurrencies could essentially undermine the financial stability of the country. Now, whether that's true or not, they're putting it out there. They're going to operate from that standpoint, and they're not going to, this is going to give them the justification to do whatever it is they feel necessary to quash crypto. And we did a report showing you how the United States, under the Biden administration, has marshaled at least half a dozen agencies to regulate the hell out of crypto. Now, the U.S. Financial Stability Oversight Council, they issued in a report saying crypto asset activities could pose risk to the stability of the U.S. financial system, and emphasizes the importance of appropriate regulation, including enforcement of existing laws. That means, yes, we're going to enforce existing laws. We're going to include that, but we're also going to look at new laws. It is vital that government stakeholders collectively work to make progress on these recommendations. And I'm going to link to the report we did where the United States is gearing up to do a full court regulatory press against crypto. And for my money, that's just something look, less regulation is always better from the standpoint of an investor. All right. They're trying to kill crypto, guys. All right. And it's not just a United States thing. It's not just, a China thing. It's the Bank of International Settlements that we're talking about here. In a blog post on January 27th, the White House cited dangers from cryptocurrencies, including potential financial losses, fraud, and the empowerment of America's rivals. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan had placed cryptocurrencies on the administration's radar in June of 2021 following the ransomware attack on Colonial Pipeline in May that year. Colonial was forced to pay the hackers 75 bitcoins in ransom, which amounted to $4.4 million at the time. In June of 2021, former President Donald Trump had also indicated that he was not a fan of Bitcoin, pointing out that it was competing against the US dollar as the reserve currency of the world. All right, guys, so look, it's not just a Biden administration. It was a Trump administration. It's a bipartisan type of issue here. So just, again, I just use this as more proof of why, crypto might have been a great idea in theory, but in application, there is no way that countries with real armies and regulatory power and people who wear boots and can kick in doors are actually going to allow it to happen. Now, on the flip side of it, people are saying, well, Carstens is, he works for the organization that relies on fiat currency. And so is he an honest broker here? I think, honestly, a lot of what he's saying, and we went over some of what he's saying that I disagree with. But again, he's representing countries, okay, sovereign nations with a lot of power, including the power to make laws and regulation. All right, guys. So look, take a look at this report where we outline how the United States is attacking crypto right now, the Biden administration. But don't think that just because Biden's a Democrat, this is exclusive to him. We heard what Trump had to say, right? So just consider that when you go to put your money into something. Also, Carstens didn't mention gold. Mind you, not all of them, but most of the central banks have been on a buying spree with regard to gold. All right. So they just told you how they feel about crypto from the standpoint of the central bank of central banks. Never mention gold. And if you look at it, you can watch this report here. It shows you clearly that the central banks have been on a gold buying spree. Always do your due diligence, guys. Leave your state and country in the comments. And guys, I'll talk to you soon.